Welcome to Best in Class. My name is AJ Madden. I am here with a brilliant guest today. One of my favorite authors, New York Times best-selling author, Kevin Kruse. In pursuit of the American dream, Kevin started his first company when he was just 22 years old. He worked around the clock, literally living out of his one-room office and showering each day at the YMCA before giving up a year later deeply in debt. But after discovering the power of wholehearted leadership and extreme productivity, Kevin went on to build and sell several multi-million-dollar technology companies, winning both the Inc. 500 and Best Place to Work awards along the way. Kevin is also the author of several books, including New York Times bestseller, How to Increase Performance and Profits Through Full Engagement, Employee Engagement 2.0, 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management, and Great Leaders Have No Rules. He is a Forbes leadership columnist and was named to the Trust Across America Top Thought Leader in Trust. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, AJ. Great to be here.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Kevin is the author of two of my all-time favorite books on leadership and performance. And I have a challenge with the clients I work with and anybody who is listening to this. I have $1,000 challenge. If you can find me a better, more prescriptive book on management or time management, I'll give you $1,000 for either one of those. And I've yet to to pay out the $1,000 on this challenge. These books are so complete, and I'll put links in the show notes for both books, and I'm sure we'll get into it today. Kevin, are you ready to jump into some questions?
I'm ready. I'll do my best.
Excellent. Excellent. Kevin, what are some key mindsets that helped you become best in class at what you do?
Yeah, I mean, AJ, I don't know that I consider myself best in class, but I'll roll with the question. I just think in terms of the entrepreneurship stuff, it's probably just always having, what people now call like a growth mindset. It's not win or lose, it's win or learn. And knowing that the most successful people are failing all the time. Like if your failure rate isn't 80%, you're not moving fast enough, you're not innovating enough. And I think I always took that. You mentioned sleeping on the floor of the office, going to the YMCA. That company failed. But rather than saying, I'm a failure or I will never succeed, I took a year to pay down some credit card debt and I tried it again. And that one didn't go so great. So, I mean, I just think the most important mindset is just life, business, et cetera. It's experimentation. It's either this experiment worked and I'll build on it, or this is one way not to invent the light bulb or make $1 million or whatever it might be. So I think that growth mindset is probably the most important one.
Okay. I love that. Very simple, very powerful. It's a Swiss Army knife that applies to all kinds of things. The growth mindset and the test and experiment mindset, and we win or we learn. This is very applicable to all walks of life and every profession, both personally and professionally. And I would suggest now, if you're listening, get out a pen and paper. And I know there'll be a ton of good notes from this conversation. I could promise things in life, but I promise you we're about to get some gold here. Now, in terms of daily habits, particularly time management, would you mind if I went through some of the key habits that you mentioned in 15 Secrets in terms of how the most successful people manage their time? And if you can just give us a little explanation in your words on some of these habits.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. 80-20 principle.
Yeah, Pareto principle, basically saying you're going to get 80% of your results from about 20% of your effort. And so, a classic example in business is going to be, if I've got 100 sales reps doing $100 million a year, it's not that each one's given me $1 million of sales. There's going to be like 20 amazing kick butt sales reps that are selling $80 million worth of stuff, and the rest are getting the rest. And so, just sticking with this example, hey, if that's working for the business, that's fine. But a lot of people look at that and say, why don't we just, get rid of the 80 salespeople that aren't really selling that much, keep the 20 who are, and we're going to save a whole lot of money and headaches and invest in our superstars. You can use that with your own time. You think about anything that you're doing in your business, or how you're trying to write a book, or for health, I would even argue, and you know more about this, I'd love to get into it with you on the health stuff. But I think, people often make it too complicated. You don't need to have your diet on point 100% of the time. Your diet needs to, you need to avoid major blowups and some other things, like, a 20% plan can get you 80% of your results. There's just outsized effects on a handful of things. So anything in life, just look for those things of like, okay, what's really giving me the results that I want? Let's reinvest, refocus on those efforts, and maybe just walk away from some of the other things. A lot more sanity that way. We won't be so busy if we're not having to chase all those things.
Mm. Oh, that's one of the best 80-20 explanations I've heard yet, because I believe it's one of the most powerful principles in success and happiness, without a doubt, when applied just as you described it there, in terms of health, wealth, relationships, happiness, career, all those things, which segues into another chapter in the book and tool, the one MIT. Can you expand on that concept?
Yeah, MIT is your most important task. And the most important task, I kind of have a problem. I think one of the best-selling time management books out there is from Brian Tracy, the classic, Eat the Frog First. And, and I don't agree with that. His principle is we all show up, at work or get to our desk in the morning. And it's like, pick the thing that we really don't want to do, that we've been putting off, and do it first. Eat that frog first, and then go on with your day. And I don't agree with that, because often the things, for example, that I don't want to do, it's administrative work. It's signing expense reports. It's chasing down some invoice. It's answering dumb questions from people. It has to get done. But I don't like doing it. But a better use of my time is in the morning, when I'm cognitively at my best. Be very intentional and think about, all right, yes, I'm going to have to do all of that stuff throughout the day, but what's the most important task that's going to 10x my business, 10x my health, make me live up to the identity that I have for myself? And let me do that first. Let me do the most important task first. In people who have maybe, more regular jobs, it's like, sure, there's lots of things you have to do today so you don't get fired. The most important task is the thing you should be doing to get a raise, to get a promotion, to get a big bonus. And so that's the problem, is like, there's always going to be fires to put out. There's always going to be back-to-back meetings. There's always going to be more to do in a day than we have time to do it. There just always will be. So let's show up in the morning and pause and say, okay, what is the one thing that if I just spend 30 minutes on it, tip this domino over, it could have a 10x effect down the line. And it might be, depending on your job, recruiting, I might need to recruit a star salesperson. I might need to write a certain report or work on my book or whatever it is. It's the thing that's not the burning bridge or the burning bush. It's the thing that, if I can get it done, has the chance to get me that promotion, has the chance to 10x my business. Let's work on that first. The frogs can wait for later.
Mm. That can be a life-changing move, to identify that and execute it on a regular basis, whether it's with your health, our relationship, our work, our job, our business, to identify that MIT and get it done.
Yeah, get it done.
And not get distracted. There's a life changer right there. The word no, there's a whole chapter about that in the book, which is one of my favorite chapters in the book. Can you define what the importance of no? And if someone has trouble saying no to others, in terms of solicitations of their time and attention that they don't want to say yes to, can you give us some tips at becoming better at saying no, having the confidence, and also maybe some language to use?
Yeah, this was one I didn't expect to find. When I interviewed all these, self-made millionaires and billionaires, I thought they'd be talking to me about to-do lists and things, but what kept coming up was the power of the word no as a strategy. I mean, the most successful people, they know exactly what their goal is for the year, and they know what they need to do to get there. They've got a plan. And so anything else that their friends are asking them to do, that their colleagues are asking them to do, that whatever comes in, even new good opportunities, they say no to, because they're single focused. If it doesn't support that primary task, they say no to it. So they're really focused. And look, it's easy to say no to bad ideas or just true time wasters. The challenge is, especially in business, every day I have people bring me good ideas. add this to the product, go chase this new sales opportunity, go write this new book. I mean, in entrepreneurs, like we got a million ideas all the time. So it's the discipline to say no, even to friends, even to good ideas. And to me, what helped, because I'm high in agreeableness. I'm a people pleaser. A lot of people are people pleasers. And to me, when I realized that when I say yes to something, I'm actually saying no to something else. And sometimes I would know right away, oh, I'm going to agree to do this meeting, but that means I'm not going to be able to spend 60 more minutes writing my next book, or I'm not going to be able to call my favorite clients. Like sometimes you know what that is. Other times you don't know what is the sacrifice until it's there. But even when you say yes, you are by default saying no to something else. And so then how do you start to say no? And first of all, I will say that saying the word no is enough. Like none of us owe it to anybody to feel badly about saying no. That's setting boundaries. That's putting ourselves first in a healthy way. Having said that, I try to often nuance it. And so very often I won't just say no, but I'll give the conditions around it. So if you came to me, AJ, and said, hey, I really want you to join the board of directors on my company, or I want you to contribute to this fundraising thing. Can you join the committee for this fundraising thing? Great cause and all that. And we're great friends. Rather than just saying, no, I don't have time for that. I might say, listen, I love the cause, would love to support you. And not but I'm swamped right now. I don't have a lot of money. So what are you trying to accomplish? Is there another way I can help? And maybe it's like, well, I was hoping you join the committee so we could raise $10,000 from your friends. And maybe then I'd say, okay, look, I'll write you a check for a certain number and I'm going to make 5 phone calls. That's what I can do, but I can't join the committee. Or I would say, okay, I understand. Unfortunately, this year is just, I don't have the time for that, but let's carve it out for next year. So often it's like, find out what the end result is. Is there a way I can help towards that goal without doing the time commitment thing? The other thing would be, a lot of times people who are making the ask don't understand, and not in a bad way, but like they just don't know how busy you are. A lot of people aren't busy. A lot of people have their weekends off and have 5 p.m. on to just sit and watch Netflix. That's not me, right? So very often my version of no would be someone asks me to do something, or often it's a phone call or a meeting or whatever. And I'll say, listen, would really like to, and it's really busy. So I'll tell you what, my first open slot is, and then I'll look on the calendar, and it's often 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks from now. And I'll say, let's do 20 minutes on this date. And sometimes they laugh and be like, oh, you had a typo. That's like 4 months from now. I'm like, no, that is my next date. Do you want it or not? And they'll say, oh, I had no idea you were that busy. Don't worry. I don't need this meeting. It's not that important. Or I'll say, I'm really, really busy. But Saturday night from 11 to 11:20 at night, I'm open. Do you want to talk then? And they'll be like, at night, are you joking? Like, if this is important to you, what, you don't work Saturday, 11 o'clock at night? So if it's really important to them and they say, yeah, I'll take that call. Well, then that also tells me like, oh, this is something that's really important. I'll do it. I'll take that call, or I'll make time another time. But often these people will be like, oh, I didn't know you were so busy. I didn't know you were working the weekend. No, it's not that important. So I think just clarifying that it is a challenging time. I do want to help. So is there a way I can help in another way? Or can we talk or do it, down the road? And often those requests will just go away.
Wow. I find that one of the hardest things for people to do is say no.
Yeah.
To solicitations of their time and attention that don't get them closer to their priorities, whatever those are. And everything you gave there in terms of some really important mindset shifts and also some practical language and tactics can be extremely useful to everyone listening, myself included. And again, these are all in the book. I mean, there's 15 different tips, and then there's a whole lot more than just the 15. There's addition after the main chapters. There's more tips. I can't recommend this book highly enough. It's the #1 book I recommend when I start working with a client. I mainly coach CEOs, business owners, executives, some professional athletes. 9 times out of 10, it's the first book we start with. And, out of the hundreds and hundreds of books I've had the privilege of reading over the years on performance, success, mindset, business leadership, this is where I start most of the time, because if you don't get your time right, it's hard to get a lot of other things right. If you don't fully understand and how time works and how to master your time in terms of mindsets, habits, and strategies, it's almost like building everything else on a foundation of sand. You'll never reach your full potential, not just in terms of success, but also in terms of happiness. Now, there's another great chapter. Every chapter is great. Here's another one. There will always be more to do. And I find myself going back to this one over and over again with people I know and care about.
Yeah, I like the way you phrase that you know and who you care about, because time is life. It was the founder and CEO. Now I'm blanking on his name. Gordon Moore, I think it was. Who talked about, he was running a giant chip factory, but he was always going home at 6 p.m. for dinner or something. And he said that he had that realization that there will always be more to do than you can ever do in one day. And so you never, back when I was young and dumb in my 20s, it would be like, okay, I'm going to leave the office at 5 p.m. to get home and have dinner and play with the little kids. And then 5 p.m. and there's a fire to put out. And then it's 5:30 and a client calls. And then it's 6 o'clock and someone's staying late and has a problem. Then it's 7 o'clock. And next thing you know, I'm calling, the wife at 8, apologizing. She thought I was going to be home 2.5 hours ago. And when you realize that there will always be more to do, like you could work 24 hours and there's still things you're not going to get to, then it flips and it just becomes, what is enough? How many hours a day am I willing to allocate to this business or this hobby or this relationship? And there's no right answer. If someone wants to work 16 hours a day, okay, I'm not going to judge them for that. Most people, it's probably not wise, but be intentional with that. Like set that alarm for when you're going to go from being the superhero at work to the superhero at home. All of a sudden it's like, okay, I saved the company. I worked in the company. I was a superhero at work for 8 hours, for 9 hours, whatever that number is. Now I'm going to go superhero at home as a spouse, as a parent, as a neighbor. And so to me, it's just like, once you really let it settle in that there's always going to be more to do, then you just get really intentional. It's like, okay, I'm going to devote 8 hours a day to work. Now I'm going to prioritize and time block, like what are the things I'm going to do in those 8 hours? Leave a little slack time for the fires, the questions, the gotta minutes or whatever. But then when it's 5, when it's 6, boom, I'm out. And if there's stuff that's going to fall off the plate or the table because I left at 6 p.m., so be it. Then the next day starts all over again.
Mm. That mantra, that phrase, there's always more to do, I find to be a major anxiety reducer for people I work with and others, myself included, that it is, when you have that mantra, that affirmation, there's always more to do. It's a big anxiety reducer and stress reducer when you just accept it, and you take a lot of pressure off yourself.
Yeah, that's right. AJ, let me ask you, go back. You talked about doing work even with athletes. And do you find that even athletes benefit from some of these productivity strategies? I wouldn't think of them as the natural CEOs. That's an obvious one, right? Even athletes you find could benefit from some of this?
Absolutely. Every single one of them, even professional entertainers, professional athletes, surgeons. I work with some surgeons. Every single one of them benefits from this, all the tools in this book. And anywhere where there's an easy way to think about it would be anywhere where there's a scoreboard, for sure. Business is a scoreboard. Sports is a scoreboard. Anywhere where it's anything performance related, okay, is going to be, even without a scoreboard, it's going to be success related. And also, obviously, in terms of our own relationships and happiness, being able to master our time is important. But definitely for the most successful athletes of all time, and if you study them, you look at Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, LeBron James, George St. Pierre, very routine oriented. They follow these 15 tools. So if you're a young athlete listening to this or a pro athlete listening to this book, if you don't master your time, you'll never fulfill your potential as an athlete. You just won't.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that phrase, anywhere where there's a scoreboard. And we don't often think about like scoreboards in our relationships too. So I'm really big on like my 3 to thrive are health, wealth, and relationships. Health, it's a lot of scoreboards, the scale, body measurements, you think BMI, whatever your score is. Relationships, it's less obvious what those are, but I mean, there are some powerful questions. I mean, if it takes courage, but ask your partner, hey, how was I this week as a husband, as a wife, as a boyfriend, whatever it is, on a scale of 1 to 10. And most of the time they'll say, oh, you were great. Yeah, you're like an 8 or 9. Like, it was a good week. But then the real question is the second question. Okay, what would I have had to have done different to get the 10? That's when the conversation really starts. But it's interesting that in relationships, I totally agree. It's like being intentional with time, whether that's scheduled date nights or quality time with kids or being there for big events. It comes down to that schedule element again. It's pretty cool.
That's one of the most important questions you could probably ever ask someone in a relationship. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a husband am I? A wife, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister,
a
manager, a coach, a player, on a 1 to 10. And then, like you said, the magic next question is, how do I make it a 10? Man, is that excellent. That's again, I can't overstate that one. I try to ask that question myself when I can, but it's it's very rare because you just don't hear it. You don't think about it. And quantifying relationships, to your point, is difficult unless you have a question like that.
That's right. That's right.
Then you can quantify. Let's see. Always okay. How about time blocking and time boxing? However someone wants to phrase that.
Yeah, so this was the thing that surprised me, and it turned out to be the most controversial secret in the book, because I mean, I used to be the idea is, as I say, like, throw out your to-do list and live from your calendar, or schedule, don't list. Now, almost everybody is a to-do list, task list person. And the classic guide, like getting things done, it's like your schedule, your calendar is for meetings and appointments with other people. And then everything you need to do, you put on your to-do list. But the research is clear. Like, the to-do list is where your good intentions go to die. 70% of things that go on a to-do list are never actually done at all. And it's stressed out. It leaves an open loop, the Zeigarnik effect. So if I've got my 45 things on my to-do list, I'm not sleeping so well tonight, because it's like churning. I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to do, so much to do. And the idea is, if you really want to do something, pick the day, pick the hour, pick the duration, and schedule it. And that's what I found the most successful people are doing, is like, they're not walking around with a piece of paper with 40 things on it. They have a calendar, and it's been intentional. What do I value? Oh, if I value my health, where's the time block on my calendar for going to the gym or getting my 10,000 steps in? If I'm time blocking, or if I say to you that my value is my family, okay, how much time on the calendar am I spending with my family? If I'm the CEO and I say, our people are our most important asset, really? How much time, how many time blocks are on your calendar visiting your employees versus customers or investors? And so the idea is, like, once again, like, what's my MIT? What are my key action items today? What do I value? And put it on the calendar. And this also helps with distractions. Now when we've got supercomputers in the palm of our hand, it's really easy to respond to every buzz and ding, whether it's email or Slack messages or Teams messages or social media, right? We're just constantly picking it up. And that's horrible. It's a dopamine hit, but it's horrible for productivity. Instead, I've got 3 time blocks, 9 to 9:30, 12 to 12:30, and 5 to 5:30. That's when I'm processing. I don't check, I process my email and my messages. So 3 times a day, I value communicating with people. So those are the blocks, but I'm not doing that in between. So just anything you want to do, especially if it's recurring, schedule it in your day and live from your calendar.
And you also touched on personal there, to schedule personal time on the calendar, whether it's, I'm guessing, for your health, for relationships.
I put everything. So I've got every Tuesday night, I've got a 10-minute block to take out the trash, because I used to forget to take out the trash, and that's really annoying. So now I even have that on my calendar. But if you want to take this to an extreme, so like, and I think when I wrote that book, when I finished writing that book, I'd consider myself maybe in the top 5 to 10% in terms of like being dialed in for productivity. Now I'm trying to take that to 1% or a tenth of a percent. And so now I'm playing with the concept, AJ, of like preloading my year. So now, we're halfway, at the time we're talking in this podcast, we're halfway in 2023. I'm already mapping 2024. So what do I know that I need to do in 2024? I need to get my annual doctor's appointment and dermatology skin check and 2 dentist appointments. And I value a family vacation. I value a high-end adventure just with me and Christine. I know there's going to be 3 or 4 conferences. Let's put that in the calendar. Everything we know that we value, health, personal, vacations, let's map that now so that those things don't get forgotten as we get closer. Or it's like, hey, it's July, we need to plan a summer vacation with the kids. And it's like, oh, everything's already rented. Everything's too expensive. It's too hard to put together. So personal and professional, I put everything in the same calendar.
Oh, brilliant advice. Brilliant. It's practical, and it's also simple to execute.
Yeah.
It's just a mindset shift and just getting ahead of things, essentially. Morning routines, best morning routines.
Yeah, that was another surprise where I just asked everybody, give me your number one secret to time management productivity. And people talk about how you start your first hour is going to be how the rest of your day goes, or what I do in the morning is the most important. I didn't expect to stumble on that. People talk about their hour of power, their miracle morning routine. Everybody's got slightly different system, but it almost always relates to something physical, something mental, or spiritual. My own routine, I'm getting ready to do a book next year on this one. I start, and it's a reflection on, my purpose. It's a 1-minute gratitude exercise. It's thinking about my identity and intentions for the day around my 3 to thrive: health, wealth, relationships. It's going to be meditation. It's going to be drinking a glass of cold water immediately, an inner bath that's going to increase my metabolism by about 23%. It's going to be preparing the high protein green smoothie shake because of the health benefits of that. It's identifying and physically writing down, what is my most important task? What is the one thing I'm going to do this morning that's going to 10x the business? And so to each their own. I don't believe like everybody needs to follow this one exact routine, but of the people I interviewed, most people are getting up early, doing something for their mind, body, and spirit.
Okay, excellent. Boy, a lot of things to take away there. A lot of things to try. And again, it's a great chapter in the book. It's very complete in terms of examples of morning routines of successful people. And to your point, it's you can customize it to yourself as an individual, whatever works for you. And then there's some themes as well to go with it: mind, body, spirit, all 3, 2 of the 3. Can we go into 3 of the key? There's 10 great tools in Great Leaders Have No Rules. Could we go over 3 of those?
Bring them up.
All right. Number 1, close your open door policy.
Yeah, so that's goes back to some time strategy. With Great Leaders, Have No Rules. The idea is that there's many pieces of kind of conventional wisdom that people meant well, or it worked when they came up with them, but people need to rethink them. So, the idea of having an open door policy, which back when we all went to offices, meant that managers always had their door open, so people could come in and out with issues. And you could skip levels, go to your boss's boss. It's designed for open communication. Great. And this day and age, an open door policy is digital. If you're working from home, people can Slack you a message, Teams you a message, or whatever it is. The problem is there's problems on a couple of different levels. One, it's just a productivity nightmare. If I'm trying to do deep work, if I'm trying to do strategic work, if I'm trying to work on my MIT, and I'm constantly having people come in and out of the office or in and out through my messages, it's very hard to get things done. And even, I always say, the dreaded sound back in my day was the knock. Got a minute? Because it's never a minute, right? They use it, they come in, it's never a minute. They're always lying. So the idea is like, okay, it's bad for productivity, but also too often when people are coming in to your open door policy, they're like reverse delegating, and if they're doing that a lot, you've got to ask yourself, did I hire the wrong person? Did I not train them adequately? Or do they not have the tools to be successful? But if they're the right person, they've been trained, they've got the tools, then they shouldn't be coming in through the door very often. It should be really them saying they know that they should be solving these problems or trying things or experimenting. And it's, again, okay to learn through failure, along that way. So rather than just saying like, no, we're going to slam our door shut, we're not going to let people talk to us, there's just better ways than having a wide open door policy. And that could just be something as simple as office hours. It might be, look, I don't have an open door policy because I've scheduled my day hour by hour, 15-minute block by 15-minute block. But every day from 4 to 5, I'm here for anyone who wants to talk, solve the problems, get things off your chest, tell me about your day, whatever. But it's 1 hour at the end of the day, or 30 minutes. Or it might be, hey, I've got an open door policy on Fridays. The other days I'm busy. So you wait, hold it till Friday. The other idea is just to put some parameters around it. It could be, yes, I have an open door policy, but if you're coming to me with anything, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you think you should do? What is your recommendation? So that I'm just going to help you, red team, think through the impact of that decision. Don't bring me something to say, I'm stuck, or solve this for me. So I think the classic well-intended policy of a wide open door policy just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work for developing people, and it doesn't work for productivity.
What you'll find in Great Leaders Have No Rules, with everything Kevin just talked about there and the next few principles, is that what Kevin talks about can be applied to any leadership position, whether it's being a parent, a coach of a sports team, a military leader, a business leader. It doesn't matter. Anyone who's in a leadership role. So as you listen to Kevin's answers and listen to it with the ears of whatever leadership role you may be in. We're all in some position of leadership where someone looks up to us. Think about how you would apply his answers to whatever role you're in. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be a parent. You could be whatever leadership role you're in. And Kevin writes the book in that manner, which is one of the only leadership books I've ever read that actually connects the dots between all these leadership roles. Lead with love. Or I'm sorry, no, be likable, not liked. Can we do that one first?
Be likable, not necessarily liked. Yeah. So it's probably was my greatest leadership flaw for decades. And I felt better because I heard Marshall Goldsmith say it was his. John Maxwell told me it was his flaw. And it was this need to be liked. It was this need to be a popular boss. And I foolishly, when I was young and dumb in my 20s, would say to people like, oh, I'm not your boss. We're just colleagues with different roles. Or, oh, no, we're friends. I'm just here to support you, or whatever it might be. And the problem with that is when your behavior, when you're too attached or to wanting everybody, of course, we like to be liked. Like, I get, we're humans. Like, we got a social need to fit into the tribe, so it's okay that you want to be liked. But a need to be liked by everyone has some detrimental effects. So back in my day, for example, decisions, I'd have a very tough time making tough decisions because I would want everyone to agree. We're going to reorganize the office. Some people get offices, some people get cubes. We're going to reorganize it into different teams. Some people's bosses are going to change. And rather than saying, all right, everybody give me their input in 5 minutes or 1 day or in a survey, and then I'm going to make the call and we're going to move on, it would be like one-on-one meetings, and then AJ has this issue and Christine has this problem. So let me come up with that. Let me go back, Dave. It took forever. So decision-making was stretched out because you can't make everybody happy. The biggest problem, though, is I would withhold feedback. So rather than telling somebody like, hey, when you do this, there's this negative impact. Do you agree? And let's work on that together. I would withhold it because I wanted AJ to like me, right? And so withholding feedback clearly is a problem for performance reasons. But also what I learned is, people don't need another friend at work. They need their boss to make them better. and you get better by getting coached, right? And so the best coaches are holding up a mirror, not just to say, look how amazing you look, but also you've got this little thing over here that you can work on to look even better, right? And so that's where I say, try to be likable. Like, don't be mean, don't be rude, don't not give a darn about anybody, but don't care whether you're truly liked or not. Leaders are paid to make some tough decisions. Leaders, by definition, are going to have to promote some people and not others, give tough feedback to make people better, make tough decisions, allocate limited resources. All of these things have some form of winners and losers. And so, it took me until I was probably in my 40s to realize that I was too high in agreeableness. I cared too much about being liked by everyone. And I really needed, again, what kind of helped me is this idea of like, don't really worry about being liked by everyone. Just do what's right for everyone. And doing what's right is very different than doing what will make everybody happy. And that cleared it up for me. I mean, again, like, leadership isn't for everyone. Being a manager isn't for everyone. But if you're gonna take that role, you cannot be too attached to how liked you are by people.
Mm. And everything you just described there, every great leader in history, whether it was in sports or business or the military, as you described it there so perfectly, every one of them had to come to that conclusion without exception. Try to find one who didn't. And it's that is the real separator of an effective leader to a world-class, best in class, remembered, respected, admired, effective, someone who created wins for everybody, not in a selfish way, but it really made a positive impact on a lot of people. And history itself, as Kevin described it, as good as I've ever heard it described, in those last few minutes there. And I heard you say a few times that, and it seems to me the need to be liked forces or being afraid to upset someone and have them dislike us forces us to withhold the feedback that we need to give, whether it's a manager, a parent, a teacher, a coach. And we're robbing that person of that gift of feedback that they're really looking to us for.
Yeah,
it's
right.
really selfish on our end, essentially.
That's right. It's selfish because we're trying to not experience a negative feeling. And I'm glad you brought it back to the parent thing. And AJ, to be honest, this is something I still have trouble with. I mean, my kids now are late teens, early 20s, they're adulting. I've got a great relationship with them, but I stray too much into I don't want to make them upset or unhappy. But there are times when, as a parent, I should tell them, like, look, what you just did is not cool, or the way you wrote this could be written better, or there's some typos or whatever it is. And I was sort of raised by a father who was very quick to point out like the things I could be doing better, the mistakes or whatever it is. So I think I'm overly sensitive to that. But there are times as a parent where your kids need you to guide them. They need you to make them better in whatever ways. It's not about being their friend. Your kids don't need you to be their friend. They've got friends for that.
How do you get past that? Because I know you've overcome that. I'm sure you have.
It's a continuation. I mean, it's my personality is agreeable. And so, I think that it's always something on my mind, and I'm not perfect about it. But with my kids, it's the same as with my team members. I realize that, like, none of us like to get constructive criticism. Like, sure, it's going to sting a little bit, but if that sting makes them better at work or helps their own relationships or things like that, it's going to be worth it. And I think, that old concept about making positive deposits in a relationship bank, like, I need to remind myself that, look, 99 times out of 100, my communication with my kids is positive and supportive and provides recognition and humor and honesty and authenticity. Like, we have a really good, deep, positive relationship. So if one of my 100 interactions is like, hey, by the way, I heard you say this to that person and you shouldn't have done it, or I heard you use this word and here's why that word was not one you should use, or whatever it might be. And they'll, it'll sting in the moment, but they've got that deep reservoir of like, dad cares about me, dad loves me, dad's a supporter of mine, and they're not going to take it too personally.
Mm. Boy, is that outstanding advice. Boy, is that outstanding to continue, give all that positive feedback, all that love, all that care. So then when you have to be direct with someone and challenge them to be better at something, it lands much easier because they know you're coming from a place of service and love.
That's right. That's
Which
right.
leads us into the next one. Our third principle here we could maybe talk about in the book. And I know we only have about 10 minutes left. Lead with love.
Yeah. So, uh, I was, again, I've been in business now for over 30 years. And early on, my managers and mentors would say things like, don't get too close to your people, because what if you have to fire them someday, or there's no room for emotion in management and leadership. It's kind of like, you got to be this, put your mask on and be this robot, and don't show that you care about people. Lead with love, really means, obviously not the inappropriate HR kind of love, this love for humankind, this love for people, this deep caring for others. And it's like, look, if you were my boss and you had to fire me someday because either I just wasn't cutting it or because the company's going through layoffs, I would rather be let go by someone who actually cared about me, than someone who didn't care about me. Because if you cared about me, you give me the news, compassionately, and you try to help me get back on my feet. It wouldn't be this awkward thing. Leading with love, like, at LeadX, we have this leadership intelligence quotient, this LQ12. It's the 12 behaviors that drive employee engagement. And, caring is a top 10 behavior. Caring is loving, and so when people know that you care about them at work, I mean, it just changes everything, including being more accepting of tough feedback. But people will give you discretionary effort. People will go the extra mile. People will be honest. People will be forgiving of your mistakes. So as much as possible, like, tap into it. If you're a leader, like, you don't have to like someone to love them. That's a powerful thing. But, like, there's a lot of people who I really don't want to hang out with on the weekend, or they're so politically opposite of me. Like, their values are different. They're not going to be like my close friend outside of work. But I still love them as people, as, like, I love everybody out there. I want the best for them. I want to help them. So lead with love, even if people, rankle you. I think it might've been, one of the great basketball coaches, Wooden, or Coach K, or someone that's, always started out and said to his team, I'm not going to like you all the same, but I will love you all the same. And there's a lot of power in that.
Mm. We don't have to like someone to love them. I don't want to say anything else. I just, just ponder. It's in the book. Great leaders have no rules. It's right in the book. Yeah. Think hard on that one. If you're listening, that would, it will make the world a much better place. If we just embrace that simple mantra. Kevin, can you define excellence in 3 words? 3 words that come to mind when it comes to excellence.
AJ, I struggle with that. I don't think much about excellence. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, just what comes to mind is just giving it your best, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect. Giving it your best efforts. That is excellence. That's a great definition. That's a great way to put it. Service. What does service mean to you in a few words, a sentence?
Just helping others,
Mm. Well, I love the simplicity. I mean, this is 80-20 in action. It's, making the complex simple. Don't overthink this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't overthink.
I'm a simple guy, AJ. You don't get complex out of me.
I love it. One of my favorite sayings is masters make the complex simple.
I like that.
That's really what you've done in these books and this conversation today and your definitions, because anybody can make the simple complex. It's not that hard to do. But to make the complex simple, it takes a lot of thought, a lot of experience to be able to simplify something that may be complex, which is what you've done for us today. Do you have time for some rapid fire questions here, Kevin?
Yeah, let's try them.
Okay. Let's see. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would you choose? Could be alive or passed on. One person.
Wow. Yeah. I hear those questions go. I don't know. I don't, like, off the top of my head. So the thing is, that's interesting. I'm not going to come up with names, but, like, the problem I have with oh, I'd want to have dinner with, I don't know, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or people like that, is the people we all know of that might come to mind like that, at least in modern history. We kind of know what they're thinking, either because they're putting it on Twitter or because they have a million speeches and biographies. And I don't know, you'd get a lot out of them over dinner other than just maybe a good time. Um, what I would really want to do, like if I had a genie that kind of gave me that, I would just want to think about like the lesser known people, or people that were so successful way back that there's less of a record, like, I don't know, Genghis Khan or something, like some huge world leader that we don't have as much of a record for. But so yeah, I'd have to go way back to come up with someone.
Wow, that's a great answer. That makes a lot of sense. There's so much information on so many luminaries of the last century out there that we can study and we read about, listen to. Your, 3 to 5 to 10 personal development books, your all-time favorites in terms of personal development that had the biggest impact on you. So it could be biographies,
Yeah.
time management, anything.
So kind of a classic one, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, is just a great sort of life philosophy book. In the same vein, Marcus Aurelius with Meditations, any of the Stoic philosophy things have had an impact on me. Probably one of my favorite sales books, very practical business books. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. So that's a mixed one. I just finished reading the book called Open, which is the autobiography of Andre Agassi. Now, I've never played a game of tennis. I've never even watched a game of tennis, but this book was so well written, and it's how much he hated tennis from a young boy, and his father was like this monster to him. And he had very, very dark, Agassi had very dark episodes where he's actually using crystal meth early in his career. And then he like rebounded out of that. And it was just a fascinating book into the dark and the light of, a super successful athlete. Really, really well written. So that's one I just finished, which is really good. I can't think of a specific title off the top of my head, but I mean, I probably read more Buddhist texts and philosophies, particularly Zen, than anything else. I mean, hundreds of books in that genre, but there's no one book that stands out.
Any authors, Thich Nhat Hanh, for instance?
Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh is good, not amazing to me. I mean, it's usually the lesser known ones. I mean, again, I had an interesting thing, AJ, where one of my good friends in college, Keith, and we would talk about Zen and read Alan Watts and all this like lightweight Zen stuff. After college, he kind of disappeared for 25 years. No one really knew what happened to him. And then he reemerged, and he had gone off, and he's become an ordained Zen Buddhist monk in the Rinzai tradition. And he's built a monastery out in the woods of Wisconsin. And so I reconnected with him. He's now goes by Mado Moore. His Buddhist name is Mado. And so Mado Moore, Moore, has written 2, and I think he's got a third coming out, 2 books on Rinzai Zen that are really, really good and deep. Like Thich Nhat Hanh's a great introduction and small books and, some wisdom. But Mado Moore has some really deep, enlightening books that I've been enjoying.
Oh, excellent. Any other mindset books that you really like?
There's the work of, I'm looking over my shoulder at my shelf. So a lot of people don't know, there's a guy named Michael Neal. So he has a book called Super Coach and several others, but Michael Neal is one who is like a lesser known kind of mindset coach that sort of is this mix of cognitive behavioral therapy and stoicism and Buddhism. He doesn't use any of those terms, but that's kind of the influences from the school, the influence that he's had. So he's on my short list. I reread like Michael Neal, Meditations, Man's Search for Meaning. Like these are all books I reread every year. When I was a boy, so I've started and sold several companies. My dad gave me a copy of Think and Grow Rich, which is it's such a classic self-help book. It's almost like a joke, at this point. But it had an impact on me as a kid, and the language, of course, is so dated at this point. But the fundamental principles don't change. Like thoughts are things, right? I mean, nothing that is around us could ever have been brought into being if someone didn't have the thought about it first, whether it's this monitor, this microphone, this can of Diet Coke, everything starts as a thing, it says a thought. And so, I mean, that was one that impacted me early on, business wise. Yeah.
In terms of Michael Neal, you mentioned Super Coach. That's one of your favorites by him. Any others? Is that number one for you, Super Coach? And are there any others as well?
Like, I don't remember. Yeah. So Michael Neal, like that's one that's really good of his. I'm actually a fan of like Brene Brown's work, Daring Greatly. And it's funny because a lot of men don't read Brene Brown, I've found, but she's really good at just, especially in Daring Greatly, about just shining a light on the fact that for many highly successful people, I think, athletes, business people, CEOs, et cetera, often our motivation is, and this I discovered for myself too late, is that often our motivation is coming from a need for external validation, right? So I have low self-worth, inherent self-worth. I feel good, or I feel like I have worth if people look at me and say, oh, he built this big company, or, oh, he's a self-made millionaire, or, oh, he drives a fancy sports car. And the problem with that is, well, first of all, it's just all BS, right? Our worth has nothing to do with the car we drive or even the business we've built. Those are shallow things. And what I found, and almost everyone I know finds, if you're driven by the need for external validation, it's kind of like wanting everyone to like you. It's never enough, so all of a sudden, I sell my first business when I'm 30 for $2 million, and being previous to that very poor, that felt like a lot of money at the time. But immediately you realize, what, it's not that much. And now everyone I'm hanging out with has 10 times more money than I do. I'm a loser, right? Or, wow, I just grew my business 100% this year. I doubled 100%. That's amazing. And then you get a list of the Inc. 500, and all those companies grew themselves by 1,000%. Whoa, I'm such a loser. All those companies are better. So there's that phrase, to compare is to despair. And when you have a need for external validation, you're always comparing yourself with some group, or you're always changing the finish line. You're never satisfied. What's powerful, and I think we all have to do our own work, but Brene Brown, gets at this. It's to realize that we are all flawed, and we are all enough. We are all worthy of love. And if we're going to have worth, if I the way I would like grade you, AJ, is not by the things you've like have or built. It's more like, how many people are you helping? Are you a good person? Would you help me if I needed help? What are your values? What do your family members say about you when you're not around? Like, those are the ways I would judge how worthy, how great a human you are, not all this other stuff, right? So anyway, Brene Brown is like another good one.
Wow, is that powerful? What's the real scorecard? How many people you help? How many people do you serve? What kind of positive impact? Wow, that's a great boy, what a great philosophy that is. Any favorite documentaries or educational TV shows or movies, inspirational, educational, you could recommend to the audience?
Yeah, I'm going to take a pass on this one, AJ, because I watch a lot of TV, but it's junk. It's just, Netflix binging to relax. And I can't, again, like if I think really hard, I'll come back in a week with an idea, but nothing's coming to mind in terms of movies or films,
I see. Understood. I know we're running out of time here. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, or just some wisdom to your 18-year-old self on how to be successful and both happy and successful, what would you tell 18-year-old Kevin?
I would tell 18-year-old Kevin, it goes back to some of these themes that I'd say, hey, you have an achievement orientation, which is actually because you have low self-worth and a need for external validation. So try not to become an entrepreneur, and pursue things that you love to do that help people, and don't worry about the money. Don't worry about notoriety. And I think the 18-year-old self would be like, I don't know who you are, old man, but that's pretty stupid. I'm going to go make my millions. But that's what I would try to tell myself. just not worth the price.
Mm. Where can people find you, Kevin, if they want to find you online?
Yeah. Website is kevinkruse.com. Kruse is the last name, but I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Kevin@kevinkruse.com. I try to respond to all the email. I've got a new book coming out called next month, 11 Secrets Successful People Know About Goal Setting. So hop on Amazon and search my name up and you can get a pre-order on that. And but yeah, as long as everybody remember Kruse is the last name, they'll find me.
Okay, excellent. I'm looking forward to that book. I'm looking forward to the 11 Secrets Successful People Know About Goal Setting.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Thanks.
Oh, excellent. Well, Kevin, thank you for writing several life-changing books. And thank you for the masterclass on leadership and time management and success. I appreciate you.
Thanks, AJ. Appreciate the invitation to come on and chat.
Great to have you, Kevin. Take care.